your mind deceive you. We all believe in something. I pray to God hear me. I pray the demons hunt. I'm facing all this evil, but I still die for love. Quit acting numb to me. I'm just trying to feel something that ain't this pain I'm hurting. Hope these words heal someone. I'm just a flawed human. Truth is I'll never be perfect. Though it's a lost cause, still I find myself searching. I find myself searching. Some get buried in this earth before they break the surface. It almost took my mama life when she gave birth to me. So I can't shake this feeling that I was made with purpose. Low key, I feel that there's a reason God don't make us perfect. To learn that life is balanced. Without struggle, faith is worthless. And to survive, you need some faith, cause that's what makes it worth it. We all just flawed humans. Nothing makes us perfect. Yeah, it's gonna be our day that one day. On my way home, I will take the long way. So don't feel like all I got is faith. You don't gotta turn down nice. Street too small. Huh? It's the street real.
Oh, we're live.
All right, all right. Can everybody see us and hear us okay? We want to make sure everybody can see and hear us. Just give us a thumbs up in the chat and let us know if you guys can see and hear us okay. We want you guys to be able to see everything we're bringing to you right now. Everybody who's in the chat right now can give us a thumbs up if you can see and hear us, all right?
Let's see if we got some sound going on right now. Let's see. Chat. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Courtney, for that. Thank you for letting us know.
Thumbs up. Appreciate you, Chemo Jones. Everyone else, make sure that your sound is all the way up. You guys can hear us because we're about to get into semester 2.
Yay.
Of the Podcasting Academy. I'm so excited.
Yes, very excited.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. What's going on, everybody? My name is Meesa.
And my name is Meah.
We also go by Eminem, and we're from the #1 teen and young adult radio show in the nation for inspiration, and it's called Eminem Live Radio.
And we want to welcome you guys to our second semester of the Podcasting Academy. A little backstory. So Meesa and I, we wanted to start the Podcasting Academy last year during March.
Yeah, almost a year ago.
Almost a year ago. And we had this idea of just being able to pour so much into local podcasters here in Atlanta, Georgia, where we're from. And as you all know, the world stopped when good old coronavirus came and took the world by storm. But we still had a really great passion to be able to tell so many people about teach them about podcasting, being able to tell them all the knowledge we possibly can. So we figured, let's go ahead and launch the Podcasting Academy virtually. But it's been great to see so much success happen through everybody being able to be here. We're so happy that you all are here. We're hoping that throughout these next 4 courses, you all will be able to get as much knowledge as you can and be confident to start your own podcast.
Absolutely. And shout out to every last one of you. I mean, it's really, really tough to, start something new, especially in the midst of a global pandemic. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you guys are aspiring podcasters that are trying to seek a wealth of knowledge, I'm so glad that you all decided to take that first step and enroll in Eminem Live Radio's Podcasting Academy.
Yes.
It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Okay, here we go. Podcasting Academy. Well, listen, okay, I feel like we should go ahead and just let everyone know a little bit about your instructors, of course, Meesa and Meah of Eminem Live Radio, but about our podcast here at Eminem Live Radio. Eminem Live Radio is a 1-hour music and talk formatted podcast that's centered around inspiration and positivity.
Yes, it is. Our show consists of a high energy jingle, interviews, interactive conversations, segments, and music in between.
Absolutely. And then you can also conveniently find our show on all podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We do have a few affiliate stations, one down here in Atlanta called Track Stars, and we have one up in Chicago called Art Soul Radio. But I feel like we should go ahead and give them a little inspiration of how we kind of got started in podcasting.
Yes, give you guys the backstory of how Eminem Live Radio came about. This will be very, very key later on in today's class.
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of people always ask us when we do these classes, when we go meet, different groups of people and we speak in front of, large audiences, how did Eminem Live Radio get started? Well, I was a senior in high school, and Meah was a sophomore in high school, and it was just a regular Friday, kind of just like this one, nothing really, big happening, so on and so forth. And we get in the car after school in the car ride lane, and on the radio at that moment, we were listening to a traditional gospel song. Now, listening to this traditional gospel song, I'm not going to lie to you, as like a Christian teenager, we grew up in church and so on and so forth, very active in our teen ministry. I was turned off, y'all. I was very turned off to the step, clap, clap, tambourine shaking down by the riverside, music that was playing in the car. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to plug in my phone to my aux cord and just jam to all the songs that I've downloaded into my library and just jam to those songs that we like to, turn up to, snap our fingers to at kickback, so on and so forth, But of course, sometimes we all know that, riding in the car and plugging up your aux cord to, the car, and you play your music in front of your mom. Sometimes it doesn't make sense because of the lyrics that are in the music that you've downloaded to your phone or the content that the artist is rapping or singing about. I knew I couldn't do that. So I was just kind of doomed to listening to this traditional gospel song that I did not want to listen to. So Meah and I had a conversation about the traditional gospel song that was playing at the time. And she said, I think it'll be so dope if there was like, a teen young adult radio show that was geared towards teens and young adults that gave us the beat that we all like to turn up to and whatnot. But it also gave us the motivational and encouraging lyrics that the traditional gospel song gives us. And I thought about it for a second. And the more I thought about it, I thought it was a great idea. And I said, you know what, Meah? Yeah, why don't we do it? Why don't we do this radio show for teens, young adults our age, and we can be the ones that host this show. Let's do it. And she literally looked at me just like this and was like, really, sis? It was just an idea, just a joke. I wasn't thinking that you were going to take me serious. It was just an idea. I thought we were having just a conversation. But the more we decided to have a conversation about this teen young adult radio show and providing our generation with alternative source of music, we actually decided to move on it. So we started thinking as if we were the media personalities way back then. So the first thing we did is we wrote everything down. Mm-hmm. We wrote the name of the show down. We wrote the tagline. We wrote possible guests to have on the show. We even giveaways, if we were to give away some things, the whole 9 yards.
Listen, we wrote down absolutely everything, only because we wanted to be ready to do Eminem Live Radio whenever the opportunity presented itself. So like Meesa said, we wrote down everything. We had this tablet that we got for Christmas, and we were just jotting down all of our ideas for whatever Eminem Live Radio could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I think the only person who we ever told the idea of Eminem Live Radio was our mom. And so we were like, Mom, we have this idea of Eminem Live Radio. What do you think? And she was like, that's great. That's a great idea. Now, I don't know anything about radio, but keep writing down the ideas and we'll see where it can take us further along down the road. So I want to say a year's time passed from that moment. We told our mom, and then a year later, and then someone came up to my mom out of nowhere and said, hi, how are you doing? I know someone who has a radio station and they're looking for some shows to go on the air. Do you happen to know anybody who wants to be on the radio? If you do, here's the card for the program director of WIGO 1570 AM. Mm-hmm. Be able to set up a meeting and they'll see that they can put your show on the air. And it didn't hit my mom until she told Meesa and I the idea. And we were like, that's our opportunity to do Eminem Live Radio. And then basically we met the program director, and off of our first meeting, he gave us our very first slot. It was on, our very first show was on September 22nd of 2013. Yeah. It was on an AM station called WIGO 1570 AM here in Georgia. Now, we were with that station for, I want to say, about 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then it wasn't until later on our team and even some friends of ours were saying, you guys should really tap into podcasting. And we're like, we're not really sure about it. Like, do people really like podcasts? Is it really like, I don't think that's really our scene, but they were like, no, like your demographic, your energy, your show would do well on podcasts. And then our team was telling the same thing to us. And then we said, let's go ahead and get this podcasting thing a start. So therefore we went ahead and hopped right into it. And therefore that's why we're on all the podcasting platforms we're on today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's a little backstory on who we are as your instructors. Mm-hmm. We didn't want for you to come into a class in which you had no idea who we were, what our expertise were, different things of that nature. So now it's your turn, okay? Now we want to get to know you and your podcast idea. So in 30 seconds, we want for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your podcasting idea. Now, also, if you do not necessarily have your idea fully fleshed out, but you have somewhat of like little ideas here and there or little details, feel free to share those, okay?
Yes.
This is an open space. This is a space that's, safe for creatives such as yourself, such as, Meah and I, and we want for you to be comfortable with sharing these different ideas for your podcast, okay? So about 30 seconds to a minute or so, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your podcast, okay? Let's see who we're going to start off with. Let's see. Tierra, hopefully I pronounced it right. Tierra, are you there? Can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your podcast idea?
Good evening. My name is Tiara.
Hello.
I don't quite have an idea as of yet.
Okay. That's absolutely
It's absolutely fine. We're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being honest, and we're happy to be able to. Hopefully, from this class, you'll be able to learn and gain so much knowledge that can help you fully develop your podcasting ideas.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us, Tierra. Let me see.
One more time.
Oh, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. No, we're just thanking you so much for joining us on the Podcasting Academy, and we hope that at the end of the 4 courses, you're able to have a better idea of what direction you want to take your podcast.
So we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Let me see. Do we have Miss Carell Russell in here?
Yes, ma'am.
How you doing, my friend? Introduce yourself and tell us about your podcast idea.
Okay, so my name is Carell Russell. And you guys, we've met and done this before, but basically my podcast, I've narrowed it down a little bit more, and I just want to talk about being disabled in like a modern society, and really kind of take it away from the archaic, like you need a caregiver, you depend on people. Just really just talking about how people have disabilities, they become parents, and how they live their own lives and run their own businesses. So I really think that that's the angle that I'm going to take, and of course just expanding on everyday issues and things like that. So
love that.
That's great. We're so glad you're here. Thank you so much, Carell, for sharing us with your podcasting idea.
Love that idea. Love it. Okay, so I think we have another one here. Is it Courtney?
Hi. Yes.
Hi there, Courtney.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. So I actually started a podcast, but it's on hiatus right now.
Okay.
Because I'm not really for sure the direction I want to go in.
Okay.
But it's really like a girl's version of a locker room type feel, where you have different women come in and we talk about any and everything. Like no subject is off limits. So like how the boys have their own locker room talk, I kind of wanted to create a space where we can talk about things.
Love that. Listen, we're glad you're here. Thank you so much for sharing your idea, and hopefully you'll be able to get something out of the Podcasting Academy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're so excited.
Yeah, this is crazy. A lot of great ideas. And even though Tierra doesn't have her idea yet, honestly, I look at opportunities in which you don't have an idea as a blank canvas.
A clean slate. I was thinking the same thing. That's
clean
great.
slate. So you can go absolutely wherever you want creative wise. This is a great opportunity for you, of course, to start, letting those gears turn and let those creative juices flow, Tierra.
I agree. 100%.
So we're so glad that everybody's able to join in on here, and we got some ideas flowing just a little bit here. So also in our story of how we got started that we mentioned a few moments ago, we said that we wrote everything down. If we can start off with giving any piece of advice, any types of tips or tricks or what have you, I would tell you that you have to write everything down. Because Meah, a lot of times I feel like us as humans, we tend to lie to ourselves all the time.
All the time.
We tend to lie to ourselves, and that lie is, I'm gonna remember. I'm going to remember. I have it all up here. That's a good idea. I'm going to remember that. And then, of course, we get busy with the here and there's of the day. And we have, this going on and we have this going on. And that great idea that you thought about at 12, you can't remember at 8 p.m. And it probably would have been a great idea, a great foundation, a great start to where you can start your podcasting idea, your segments idea, any type of, any thoughts that happen to come into your mind that could contribute to your podcast. You need to make sure you write those down. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
And one thing I also want to add to that is that you can't plan for something that you don't have vision for. So you writing things down, like Meesa and I, when we first had the idea for M&M Live Radio, didn't have the opportunity, didn't have the program director, didn't have the station, didn't have any of that. All we had was our mere ideas. And all we did was write all of those things down, because then when the opportunity came, we were ready to be able to execute. We weren't afraid when we got that opportunity, that slot from our first meeting, because we had those ideas ready.
Yeah.
So we want for you guys to be able to plan and have vision for what your podcast could be. So therefore, when you feel confident after this podcasting academy, you can go out, you can be able to produce the show that you want.
And also think of this as an outline. Think of it as like your dream board. Of course, we're still at the beginning of a brand new year. Write out your dream board for your podcast. Just like Meah and I said, we wrote everything down from the guest. If we gave away something, like Meah and I were thinking to the point in which if we had the opportunity to give away a Chrysler, we're going to write it down as if we're able to give away a Chrysler, because you never know where your efforts and your opportunity and your ideas can take you. So please make sure, please remember to write everything down. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
All right, now listen. So now this is where you guys get your pens and your paper out. You guys can take notes if you want to, because now we're about to get into the main content of the orientation class 1 here for the Podcasting Academy. We're going to talk about the 3 C's, and those 3 C's are content creation, creative elements, and confidence building. Again, we're talking about the 3 C's: content creation, creative elements, and confidence building. These will be very, very key. You're going to see why in just a couple of minutes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm taking a moment to just check the chat out here. Let me see here. Carell Russell, can we watch the playback later? Absolutely. Yes. And shout out to you for loving the story. I know you've heard it before. There we have it. And then, yes, Courtney, please make sure you get your pen and your pad and you write everything down.
I'm the same way, Courtney. I'm the same way.
Absolutely. Okay, here we go. So Meah mentioned content creation, creative elements, and confidence building. We're about to go deep into that right here, right now with the 3 C's, okay?
Yes. Okay, so the first C, we're going to dive right into content creation right now. Okay, so what is content creation? Content creation helps you create the skeleton of your show. Think of it like a house. You know what I'm saying? Think of it as the foundation, the groundwork. You know what I'm saying? Content creation is going to help you create what your show can embody. Now, it can be the title of your podcast, your podcast description, whatever your show is about, segment ideas and things like that. Before we get the show, before we buy the mics, before we, look into distribution, marketing, branding, before we get into all of that, let's just start creating first. Let's go ahead and just throw any idea that comes to our mind. Let's write it down on paper. What the name could be, what the show could be about, the segment ideas. Let's write all that down. That's what your content creation is going to be. Now, some details into content creation is time management. Now, I know you're thinking, how is time management, content creation, how those two fit into each other? Well, scheduling how you manage your content is time management.
Yes.
And what do I mean when I say that? I mean, how long is your show? When are you going to record and upload your podcast? When are you going to edit? What days are you going to record? What days are you going to post? What days are you going to market your podcast? What day are you going to plan for the upcoming podcast? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are different things. If you do not plan for time management when it comes to your podcast, you're going to get lost. The only reason why I say that is because, like we already said, there are so many things that happen within our regular everyday lives when it comes to work and family and business and kids if we have them, and husbands if we have them, wives if we have them. There are already so many things that we're already juggling in life, and along with that, you're going to have your podcast soon. So therefore, time management helps you be able to understand everything. It's like a schedule. Putting things on paper and being able to know when is going to happen when. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, you're not confused for when things were going to be uploaded, done, so on and so forth. Because like we said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We want you guys to be able to succeed when it comes to planning your content out. Okay, another part of content creation is thinking, who will hear your content? Now, this is your target audience. And one thing I love about having a target audience is the fact that it can be as broad and as specific as you want for it to be.
Yes.
It can be as broad as women, but then it can be as specific as single moms in urban areas. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be whatever you aspire for it to be. However, you need to have an aim for what your target audience can be. Yes, anybody can listen to our show, but you need to have in mind who your ideal listener would be. Who do you see on the other end with their earphones and listening to your show? That is very key. And also, this is probably the most important part of content creation, and that is, what is your why? What is your why is basically, why did you start this podcast? And the reason why that's so important is because that's what's going to connect you to the listener. That's going to create passion and heart. That's what's going to connect you from someone. That's what's going to connect you to someone who you'll probably never meet ever a day in your life. If you were to ask Meesa and I, why did you start your podcast? I would easily tell you, well, there are two reasons to why we have M&M Live Radio. One, because we want to give our generation and so many people a positive source of entertainment and music. And then even also, we want to give artists, recording artists, anyone who's in the music industry, a platform to be able to showcase their talents for positive reasons. That's easily the reason to why we do M&M Live Radio. That's our heart. That's our passion. That is our heartbeat. So therefore, if there are any, even this even goes into I guess a moral standpoint of, if you ever feel like there's nobody listening and things like that, you go back to your why. Why did I start this podcast? If you ever are lost for the direction of a segment, or if what you should do next, or like for some of you, like I know someone said, Courtney, you're on a hiatus. You're like, okay, why did I start this podcast? What is my why? Yeah. What? So therefore, your why can help you think of what's next. So those are the main keys when it comes to content creation: is time management, how you're going to schedule your content for your show. That's very, very key. So therefore, you don't get lost. And when it comes to creating and when you're going to create, who will hear your content, who's on the other end listening to your podcast every single week, every single month, whenever it is, how often you post, that's back to time management. And then even also, what is your why? Why did you start this podcast?
I do want to piggyback on that really quickly. So, I mean, I want for you all to understand that this is the very process that Meah and I took when we started M&M Live Radio. Okay, we did start off with the basics, which is the skeleton, the framework of this house that we're trying to build, which is content creation. As far as time management, we even follow that to this day. We record M&M Live Radio every Thursday.
Every Thursday.
It goes live every Sunday. Sometimes if we have our Zoom interviews or special guests on the show, we record that on that Thursday also, or depending on how the guest would like to, be free and available, so on and so forth. We have to go according to like their schedules and whatnot, but we actually have a time stamp, and we stay consistent with that process.
Even when it comes to promoting the show goes up on Sunday, a post goes up Monday telling who's on the show. Then probably I'll wait a day or two. Then the next on that Wednesday, I'll probably post an audio clip from saying what's going to be on that show that week. Everything has a schedule to serve for. I know. Then for the upcoming weeks, we have a question going up. You know what I'm saying? That goes up on Thursday, Thursday morning. So therefore, because we have this schedule, we're always in the framework of the show will always get done, because we've always managed our time for when it's going to get done.
Absolutely. And if you don't manage your time, then sometimes you can say, well, I mean, I wanted to hang out with my friends today and I don't feel like really doing it. You have to make sure you are staying consistent and you are executing whatever time you need to be recording your show, and make sure that it takes a little bit of priority.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? You don't want to get behind on a show and be consistent maybe that first month, and then you start getting a little burnt out, and then now your listeners that were faithful and consistent are looking at you like, well, where's episode 5?
Right.
I thought you were gonna put that post up on that Thursday. The same way how we watch television and a new episode comes out every Thursday, we're expecting for that show that we watch consistently to come out every Thursday. Sometimes we'll go on Twitter and look on Twitter and say, did anybody else see season 4 episode 2? Because you're expecting for that show to come up and trust that the product or the show and the production company is going to be on time with their product, right? Now, Meah also mentioned how often or who will be hearing our content. With M&M Live Radio, our demographic is millennials and Generation Z. And honestly, we're open to have anybody, listen to the show. And sometimes we will get a few grandmas. We'll get a few.
But they're young at heart.
Yeah.
So they're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have our demographic, which is the millennial generation and younger. Okay. And also what our why is. Meah mentioned what our why is. But also with that why, that does keep you coming back. Sometimes in moments in which you're only going to get 5 listens or like 10 streams.
Which honestly, when you start out, it will be like that.
Right.
It will be like that.
And consistency will get you to where you need to be. But sometimes when you see that 10 stream number and you thought that the show was so good and everybody was going to love it, that why is going to keep you coming back to record another episode. So make sure you identify with these things, you write it all down, and you can get yourself focused to understanding what your content creation is for your podcast. All right, here we go. The next C we're going to go into is creative elements. All right, now creative elements help you decipher what to talk about in a creative way and in the quality of entertainment and conversation, okay? Also, content creation is the skeleton and the creative elements is the flesh and organs. All right, so last slide. We talked about what the content creation was. That was our skeleton. That was our framework. Those were the bare bones of our podcast, right? Now we're going to the second C, which is creative elements. Now we're going to put some flesh on these bones. Now we're going to start putting a few curtains and walls and rugs on our floor of the framework of the bare bones. And we're going to start putting our thumbprint. What sets your podcast apart from all the other podcasts in the world? Seems like a lot of people are listening and watching podcasts now, and don't be deterred from that. Please don't be deterred from that. Don't think that just because there's a podcast that may seem like yours, your podcast cannot thrive. Okay? Please understand that you are going to bring something different to the podcast entertainment industry. Okay? And one of those ways in which you can set your podcast apart or put that extra special thumbprint on it are staple segments and components which make your podcast special. So, for example, with Meah and I with M&M Live Radio, if you haven't heard the show, we do encourage you to listen to the show and give us your feedback. We always love to hear your feedback for the show. But one staple segment that we do have on our show is hashtag too many hashtags. And in a nutshell, if it's our trending topic conversational piece of the show. So when we're on social media, we tend to go in on the hashtags. We have a segment called hashtag too many hashtags, where we give you guys all things trending, all things current through the use of hashtags. And a lot of people that happen to listen to the show who are faithful listeners of the show, they identify with M&M Live Radio. It gives them something to look forward to. Yes. It creates a culture around your show, and they love hashtag too many hashtags. We're able to be really fun, have a lot of personality in that portion, in that excerpt of the show. And it like I said, it gives them something to look forward to and feel like they're a part of something, such as, the hashtag too many hashtags. So whatever your idea is for your show, make sure you figure out what that creative element is, or whatever that special something is that your audience members can also identify with. Yes. I agree. And there's also other podcasters like, I'll even throw out The Breakfast Club, Donkey of the Day. That's one thing that Charlamagne the God does, every single show, and people look forward to that. Even with the whole donkey noise at the end, people love to look forward to those little quirky things that make your podcast super special. Here are some more examples of creative elements that can give your podcast a bit of substance, okay? We already mentioned current news and trending topics. One thing that somebody did also mention to us when we were starting a podcast is the fact that there are going to be people who are going to look for your opinion in something. Do not think for one moment that your opinion doesn't matter. There's someone out there that wants to get an opinion of a Black woman with curly hair for some reason, you know what I'm saying? Because they can identify with that. Or someone that is that does have a disability, like Carell Russell, but she wants to change that perspective and show you that she is not incapable. She's very well capable at doing everything that she wants to do in life.
Don't think that people are drawn to others with clout and influence. Most people just want to hear people with perspective. Yes. That's just really all that it is. Yeah. And what you have is a perspective. Everyone is different. Everyone interprets things differently, has opinions on things in their own creative and unique way, and people are going to want to hear that.
Right. And a lot of people tend to gravitate to things that are current and things that are new. This year, we are still in the middle of a pandemic. This year, we have a brand new president. We also heard about the insurrectionists that, bombarded the U.S. Capitol building. People want to hear your opinions on those different things if current news and trending topics happen to be that staple segment that you want to include in your podcast. So next, we have audience interaction. This is a great way to get your audience engaged with your show. This is a great opportunity, whether it be, having an advice column, having your your audience members write into the show, whether you have a raffle giveaway and you want for someone to be able to call in or be caller number 19. Back in the day in the radio entertainment industry, they love that. They completely ate it up. You know, if you want brand new tickets to Boys to Men, make sure you call 555-344-2222.
All right, the number was 555. Yeah.
And then everyone, like, you have people that are sitting at their homes with 15 phones trying to get to those Boys to Men tickets.
Good old days.
Exactly. You know, when times were simpler. You get what I'm saying? But this is a great way to get your audience involved. And also, it makes your audience feel as if they're contributing to something. Also, in radio, and even on podcasts sometimes, there are people who listen in that want to be able to call in to dedicate this song to their boo, or they want to, you know, dedicate this song to my mama because it's Mother's Day and she always had did so much for me and she carried me for 9 months and she did, you know, different things like that. They feel like they're giving something, they're giving a little bit more substance. And honestly, that's the best thing that you can have for your podcast, is for everyone else to be willing to tell other people who are not necessarily fans and have them become fans, because they're like, oh, did you hear what happened on Eminem Live Radio? Yo, they gave away like $500. You got to tune in. Like, you would love it. So then that makes somebody feel like, oh, okay, cool. I want to get $500 too. Or I want to listen in to figure out, you know, what's that giveaway secret code in order to call in and give my, you know, like different things of that nature. They feel like they're a part of a family of your podcast, and which ultimately that goes back to the culture and creating a culture around your podcast, like I mentioned before. Now, the last one right here, we have special guest interviews. Please, please, please do not shy away from this. If having special guests on your show is something that you are looking to do, please don't shy away from it, because a lot of people feel as if, I don't know what to ask. I feel like I wouldn't even, you know, contribute to the conversation. What would we talk about? You've got to be able to do your own research. I will tell you that Meah, she kind of started us off with doing, you know, special guest interviews and having new people on the show. And she had to do her research. She started looking up some very influential radio hosts or podcasting interviewers and learning what their interviewing style was like. And that built her confidence in becoming a very good interviewer. Then, of course, I got involved in that also. But it's going to build your confidence having someone else on the show to contribute more substance to your show. Okay. And not only that, but this is also a great opportunity for your special guests to promote your show to their audience as well. Mm-hmm. Okay. So those are the three right here. We have current news and trending topics, audience interaction, special guest interviews.
And I'll even go a step further and say that it maybe for some people, it doesn't necessarily have to be an interview. For some people, I know it doesn't have to be like Barbara Walters type. You know what I'm saying? Like where you like, you know, it's back and forth and things like that. It can be a special guest period where you just dive into the conversation. Honestly, I think a lot of people sometimes get intimidated by interviews because they think it takes so much. But honestly, it's just you asking. If you have any genuine questions, ask them. Yeah. And if even also it's just a mere conversation that's being captured and recorded on camera or on audio or on your podcast. And I want to even go a step further, because last semester in our podcasting academy, we had some students where their show was a format where they needed current topics and, you know, audience interaction and special guests. But we also had some people who had more of a creative writing style podcast, meaning they had more short stories and there was more of like skits. It was honestly like a sitcom, but or like a drama or on podcast. So therefore, if there is anybody who's not really trying to look for things to have like, you know, interviews or audience interaction, like, you know, talk things like much, but you want to try to tell a story, maybe your creative elements will be things like, you know, the sound effects that play when it comes to your skits that you're having on your plays or things like that you're playing on your podcast. We had one of our students. She had, it was so amazing. She had one of these, I think she was telling a story of like, you know, the detective in Atlanta, it was called the Peach Files. And she had like, you know, you could hear cars going down the street, like, you know, her typing. It was so amazing. You know what I'm saying? So I think little creative elements like that, if there is someone who doesn't want to do things in the format that we're suggesting, there are so many other ways for you to be as creative. Like these are just simply simple tools and suggestions for you to have. You don't even have to have every single creative element on your podcast. It's just think of something that could be able to make your podcast stand out and give it that extra X factor.
Yeah, even having a specific song that's played before,
just like that,
your podcast officially gets started, or a special effect noise. It could be literally whatever you want to do. This is called creative elements because you have free in total and complete
Control.
creative control.
Yes.
Your podcast is whatever you want for it to be.
All right, now we're going to go into the final C. The final C is confidence building. Okay, so now what you're thinking. So confidence in what exactly? So the first thing we're going to tell you guys is that you need to have confidence in your show. There is reason why it's so important for you to take the time to flesh out your content and your creative elements, because you need to know your show like the back of your hand. Like that's so necessary. So if like there's any day where like you're thrown off or whatever it may be, you need to know, okay, it's this day. I need to be able doing this for my show, this, that, and the third. Like you need to be able to know what's on tap for your show and even what your show entails. I want to say it's necessary for you to know the show like your back of your hand, because you never know who you're going to come in contact with who has never heard your show before. And honestly, after you start a podcast, that's honestly going to be the main topic of conversation when you come across people, whether it's someone you're in a networking business, at your job, at a friend, a family member. A listener is a listener. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter who that person is when it comes to, asking you who's you want to listen to your show, but people are constantly going to ask you the golden question, what is your podcast about? And I remember the first 2 years or whatever about when we did Eminem Live Radio, people would say, so what's your show about? And we were like, you do it every single week, but you're kind of like, what is my show about?
Honestly,
you know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's equivalent to someone saying, tell me about yourself.
And you're like, I know myself, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you get stumbled upon, but we want you guys to be confident when it comes to telling people what your show is. Because this is honestly, when someone asks, what is your show about? That's your opportunity to get a listener.
Yeah.
A listener is a listener. It doesn't matter if it's your friend, your family, your boss, whoever, a stranger who you just met. It doesn't matter. You want to be, to me, when someone asks, what is your podcast about? That's your elevator pitch. Because honestly, that's like kind of like, I need to be able to gain your attention with what I'm about to say that will make you want to tune into my show. That's why you need to know your show like the back of your hand. If someone wants to ask me, what is Eminem Live Radio? I would say Eminem Live Radio is the #1 teen and young adult radio show in the nation for inspiration. It's a 1-hour formatted show that's geared towards teens and young adults, that's geared through music and talk. That's what Eminem Live Radio is. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, it's different if someone says, what is Eminem Live Radio about? And I'm like, I'm just talking with my sister. And we talk about everything. We just talk about everything. We talk about everything. It's kind of like, which one, off of the two things that I just said, which one has more confidence in it? Mm-hmm. Which one do I sound like where I know what I'm talking about? And which one is going to make you want to tune in because I know what I'm talking about? People are going to feel confident in your show because you sound confident in your show.
Absolutely.
So therefore, that's why it's key for you to be able to know your show at the back of your hand. And even also, it's even important for you to know your show so well because you need to be able to navigate your show with ease when you're doing it. Mm-hmm. You don't want to get lost where you forget a segment and you're caught up in the moment, and therefore you forget a segment, you forgot a tagline, you forgot to bring in your special guest, you forgot to say this cue or whatever it may be. You need to be able to navigate your show, know all the pieces, all the intricate details of your show. And honestly, a great tip is that the best way to know how to navigate your show with ease is to create a rundown. Absolutely. And basically a rundown is just saying of what each podcast episode consists of, whether it's your topics, your special guests, the length of your segments, how long you're going to talk about certain things, what components, what elements are you bringing into this week's show, and the order of how you're going to discuss it.
Mm-hmm. Very, very well said. So then that brings us to our next part right here. This right here on your screen is an example of Eminem Live Radio's podcasting rundown. Okay, we literally use the same format for every single show.
Every show.
It keeps us on time. It keeps us, like we talked about the whole time management and whatnot. This is what we do. This is what our time management looks like. So I'll go through everything with you. Of course, at the top right, you see that it's the date. That's actually the date that the show is going to go live. Mm-hmm. I mentioned that our show goes live every single Sunday, and this show was for Sunday, October 25th, 2020. This also was show number 368. And then we start going down the line as to what is actually on tab for the show. We start off with our jingle. We come into the intro, and with the intro right there, you can see like a paragraph's worth of, words right there. That's what Meah and I will say. We kind of go back and forth and whatnot. I introduce myself. Meah introduces herself also, and we start in a way detailing what our listeners can expect to hear in the next 60 minutes of our show.
And honestly, for some people, you don't have to be as detailed as we have displayed in front of you. The only reason why I think that even works for us is because when we're going throughout our show and we're restating what's next for people to expect when it comes to the show, we have this back to reference to.
Absolutely. So of course, we kind of go into, we appreciate everyone for tuning into the show. How you doing, Meah? And then Meah comes in and she talks about Follower Friday, which is something that we do on social media every single Friday.
Interaction.
Absolutely. And then we go into hashtag too many hashtags. We mentioned that was one of our staple segments earlier on in the podcasting class. Then we mentioned our very special guest. In this case, it says, today on the show, we are discussing love and relationships, our male's perspective. Chemo Jones will be joining us to weigh in on the conversation. Make sure you stay tuned. Right after that, we go into our 1 minute inspiration, another great staple segment that we have here on the show. And then we start going into another one of our audience interaction pieces where we do involve our listeners and our followers on the conversation for that week.
Yes.
Right? And then after that, we start going into some music. We start playing some music. We have a few drops in there. Then you see hashtag too many hashtag right under Billboard. I hope everybody can see that. We go into some more songs. Around 30 minutes past the hour of our show, we do go into another jingle. We reintroduce ourselves as Meesa Meah of M&M Live Radio. We start going into a 5-minute part of our conversation piece. Then we start skipping down to some more good music, some more conversation, some more good music, and then we end with our ending remarks. Basically, at that point, we're able to, thank everyone so much for listening. Of course, reinstate our social media, how you can get in contact with us, different things of that nature, and also kind of give a few announcements of things that we have coming up, maybe later on in the week, later on in the month, just keeping our followers up to date on what's going on with Eminem.
So a rundown will basically also not only help you navigate your show when you're doing it, but also help you stay consistent for shows in the future. As you can see, our show is a 1 hour tight show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So therefore, every show you can expect for M&M Live Radio to be 1 hour. It's easy. I wouldn't necessarily say your show has to be an hour long. However, I would say it's key for you to be able to be consistent in how long your show is. Because when you, as a listener, it would be inconsistent. I would kind of look at a show kind of different if they would have a 20-minute episode, then they have an hour episode, and they had a 10-minute episode, then they had a 45-minute episode, then they have a 2-hour episode, and then the next episode was like 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, so what is going on? The more consistent you are, the better. So if you want to be in that 30-minute mark for your podcast, be consistent with that. Even if you got me, it's okay if you go like, 2-3 minutes over, that's fine. But you want to stay in that bracket because you don't want to go too far. So therefore your listeners will kind of think, what's going on. Things won't be inconsistent. Therefore they think, oh man, maybe I won't have enough time to listen to this week's podcast because I don't know how long it's going to be. So therefore I'm not going to listen. And we don't want that for you.
Absolutely. So like we mentioned before, we are a 1 hour format and we are on other platforms. We have to make sure that every single M&M Live Radio show is 60 minutes.
Yes.
Cannot be 39, cannot be 48, cannot be 15, cannot be 65. It needs to be an hour because we respect the time slot that we are allotted on each and every platform that we can be listened and heard on.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. Confidence building part 2. We're reaching that last part of the 3 C's that we mentioned earlier on in the Podcasting Academy for the orientation class. Okay, confidence building part 2. Confidence in what exactly? So Meah had just answered that first question, confidence in what exactly, and that was in your show.
Yes.
Right? So this question right here goes for all of you out there. Confidence in what exactly? And the part 2 of that is confidence in yourself. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, please be confident in your personality. There's so many podcasters out there, like I mentioned before, but please understand that you have something different to offer. I tend to think about the example that I saw on social media, in which when you go to the grocery store, you see about 15,000 different brands of bread, right? You see so many different brands of bread from so many different, makers of bread and companies and whatnot. The same bread 15 different times down the aisle. But there's still that one person that wants to go to that brand right there because they just tend to like that brand.
I'll even go a step further. In our house, we got 13 kinds of milk. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I'm not going to lie to you. My brother's lactose free, so we get lactose free milk. I like the regular milk. Meesa likes the plant-based milk. I know we got some oat milk or something that's been talked about around here. Everybody likes something different. You know what I'm saying? But either way, what's for me is for me, and I like that milk, you know what I'm saying? And therefore Meesa likes what she likes. You know, everyone's going to gravitate to what their own personal like is, but we have our own reasons for why we like those things. So therefore, when it comes to your podcast, everyone's going to like your podcast for what it is and your personality for what it is. Don't try to be like the other personalities, the other shows. It doesn't matter how many other shows are out there. It does not matter. Your show is very different from what other people have. Even if you have someone that's remotely a little similar to it, either way, your shows are very, very different.
Yes.
You need to take pride in that.
Absolutely. So don't think that you're in an oversaturated market.
No.
Just know that you have something to bring to the table, and what you are bringing is something of substance. And you will have listeners out there that are going to be willing to listen to what you have to say and your podcast, okay? But also remember that you are not supposed to sound like anyone other than yourself. Please, please, please remember this, because at first, when we started in radio, it took us a good little while for us to try to decipher what our radio voice and what our personalities were going to be like, because we are blood sisters. If you do not know, we have the same mom, same dad. There were moments in which Mia was trying to sound like me and I was trying to sound like Mia. So you couldn't really hear the difference in the personalities. A lot of people thought that we were the same person.
It sounded like it was one person on the air. That's what it sounded
over
like.
talking each other's voice. But don't think that because you are new to the podcasting field that you have to listen or you have to sound like Steve Harvey, or you have to sound like your favorite podcaster that you listen to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And own who you are in your personality. This is where we really want for you to dig deep as far as who you are and finding that confidence in yourself, because if you are an awkward person, please commit to being awkward. Okay? There's nothing wrong with being awkward. Why? Because there are other awkward people out there in the world that want to listen to somebody that actually gets it. If you are an introvert, be an introvert. If you're extroverted and you're really loud and you're really in people's faces and you're all here and you're all there and you have a really big voice, be that. But at the end of the day, we want for you to still be interesting to your listeners. So if you are, introverted and whatnot, just make sure that what you're talking about is bringing some substance. Bring them in. Figure out what that is that you want for your audience to connect with you with. Still be interesting. Still be engaging. Still be invested into your listeners and try to get them to be invested back into you. So please be confident in your personality and understand that you're not going to sound like everyone else, because you're not supposed to sound like anyone other than yourself.
That is right. That is right.
All right. Now let's recognize some confidence.
Let's go ahead and recognize it. So here's what we're going to do. So we are going to do a little exercise. We want to see where you can guys recognize confidence. We're going to put some influential people on the screen, and we want for you guys to be able to tell what describe this person and the confidence that they have, their overall persona, their personality, this, that, and the third. And we promise you we're going to go somewhere with this, so you'll be able to follow along, okay?
Okay, here we go. All right, confidence building. So we're talking about confidence building and the difference between these two people. So we have Tiffany Haddish and we have Kylie Jenner. Let me see who we can call on really quick, Mia. Let's see. All right, so hey, Courtney, really quick, can you unmute yourself and tell us, what do you think about the confidence from Tiffany Haddish versus Kylie Jenner?
Well, I love Tiffany Haddish, so that's one. But two, okay, so like after Tiffany shaved her head, so remember when she shaved her head because she wanted to see how many moles she had, and everybody was like, giving their different opinions, but she stuck with that. And when you see her now, like now as she's transitioning and her hair slowly growing back, we just saw that recent picture of her, and I'm like, oh my God, like you can't tell me that this girl don't think she the shit. Like,
yeah,
I thought she was, she thought she was it before, but it's like, wow, like you can't say that she doesn't think she's it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Kylie, on the other hand, I don't know. I don't want to judge the girl, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I appreciate your honesty. So
yes, honestly.
So when a lot of people look at Tiffany Haddish, we see that she's larger than life,
bold,
super bold. She does not care about who's listening, what she says. She says whatever comes to her mind, and she doesn't care what you think about it, right? Because like you said, she shaved her head. She has that level of confidence. Now, Kylie Jenner, I'm not going to expect for Kylie to act like Tiffany. Now, if Kylie comes, on social media and she's all super loud and talk about she ready, we're gonna be looking at her like she's crazy. Like, whoa, like what where is this coming from? Because that sounds very much like Tiffany Haddish. But both have very strong personas and confidence. Both are very, very strong in who they are as people. And therefore, Kylie feels like she doesn't have to be anybody else but herself. And the same thing with Tiffany Haddish. They are very strong individuals and they contribute a lot to the entertainment industry, right?
Yes, I agree.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much for that, Courtney. Let me see what who we have next. All right, so confidence building. We're talking about Ryan Seacrest and Charlamagne the God. Tiara, what do you think about these two?
Complete absolute contrast. I don't know. Okay, from my experience with he thinks he's a god and he carries away. So like, you know, he'll say whatever he wants and like
No, Tiara, I think you're breaking up a little bit. Say that one last part again for us.
Oh, I said that he owns the space that he's in. So like he's interviewing somebody, like he owns his territory. So he's gonna ask what he wants to ask, gonna say what he wants to say.
Right.
On the other hand, he's just very energetic, very interactive. He's high energy.
Very good. I love that. I love that. So you said Ryan Seacrest is very high energy. You said Charlamagne the God, he's very blunt.
Owns his territory.
Owns his territory. He commands his space. He also can be very, you know, vulgar. He can be, you know, just pretty straightforward. You know, it's something similar to Tiffany Haddish. Very, very direct. And but they still are very, very strong in their personalities.
Yes.
Honestly, when you think about radio and when you think about men in the podcasting field, you tend to think of these guys, you know. But Ryan Seacrest is more
clean cut, all American.
Yeah, very, very dapper. You see him on American Idol, you see him on Kelly and Ryan, you see him here, you see him there. You know, very, very clean cut, clean shaven. Charlamagne the God is super laid back, very for the culture, you know, and he wants to get in your business, and that's what he's known for.
Yes. Agreed.
Difference in their personalities, right? We're talking about confidence building. So Mia, tell me, what do you think about Denzel Washington and Jim Carrey?
Okay, listen, I definitely agree when with Tiara when she said that these are totally different people. Okay, so when you see Jim Carrey, you know, you see he's definitely silly. It's very rare. He doesn't have as many serious roles. You know what I'm saying? He's usually like, you know, the silly guy, SNL, the Grinch, the Mask, like, you know, Ace Ventura, if I'm not mistaken. Like there's he's always on for this larger than life, making the silly faces when it comes to his acting career. Opposed to Denzel, who's very serious, very professional. Takes his, not saying that Jim Carrey isn't. It's just like, you know, he's more of the drama type roles, and like, you know, it's very serious and really dives deep into like, you know, developing his character, being able to express his emotions and what he's and whatever pieces that he's doing, his acting. Not really much of the comedy aspect, more of like the drama, the action, where Jim Carrey is more like, you know, the comedy, family friendly roles.
Okay, I like that. I like that you even mentioned that, because while they are two total different opposites, you know, Jim Carrey brings that comedy.
Yes.
And Denzel does bring the seriousness. And they both contribute a lot, you know, and in their confidence, you'll never see Denzel Washington trying to be Jim Carrey. You'll never see Jim Carrey. Well, Jim Carrey might try to, you know, do some impersonations and whatnot, but it's very rare that when you're actually talking to him, he's gonna start quoting a line from Glory or Remember the Titans or certain things of that nature, because that's not who he is. He's very strong in his personality and he understands his level of confidence, right? Okay, now here we go. Now we're getting into the last part here, confidence building part 3.
Yes, we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it. So now we're getting into the confidence building tips. Now these tips that we're about to give are tips that honestly have helped Meesa and I build our confidence when it comes to being a media personality, and then hopefully when it comes to you guys as well, when it comes to you guys building your personalities and your confidence in who you are on the air. Okay, so here's one of the confidence building tips that we were always told is to record yourself and listen back to your audio. I know this is where everybody cringes because we hate hearing ourselves on video. We don't listen to our voicemails. We don't like hearing our own voices, but listen, that's the only way you're going to get better as hearing your voice and critiquing yourself, hearing how fast you talk, how slow you talk. You know, if there's anything, there's little little details about your personality on air. We want you guys to be able to be familiar with how you carry yourself on air, because honestly, believe it or not, there are who you are on in life and who you are on air tend to have a slight difference. Sometimes you kind of break out more when it comes to being on the air and things like that. So we want you guys to be familiar. We don't ever want for someone to tell you about who you are on your show. We want you guys to know who you are when it comes to being on your podcast. And even take it a step further, play when you record yourself, whether it's like, recording a segment or idea, or, you just talking on your podcast, introducing your podcast to everybody. When you record that, you want you to give it to somebody whose opinion you trust and ask them to give them their honest opinion. Now, here's the thing. When you do this, don't give them any preface to what they're about to listen to. The reason why I say that is because of this. Meesa and I, we went to a performing arts high school called Cab School of the Arts here in Georgia, and we had a creative writing teacher. His name was Mr. Golden, and Mr. Golden did something that always will stick with me. Every time we wrote a piece, whether it was like a script, like a poem or a short story, we would always have to have our classmates read it, and they'll have to read it out loud. And then when we give our critiques, when the students give their critiques for our writing, he would say, throughout the entire time where they're critiquing you, you cannot talk. Mm-hmm. And the reason why he did that was so key, and that reason is because he said, when you put your play on the stage, or when you play your movie in front of everybody else, or when you read your poem on stage, you cannot stop in the middle of it and then say, oh, well, the reason why I did this scene was because I was really, really important for me. The reason why this character acted this way towards this character, and the reason why I did this, you cannot explain to other people in the middle of what your piece. You need to let your work stand for itself.
Yes.
And you don't need to give anybody any preface, because if they didn't understand it, that means you have more work to do. Mm-hmm. But if it transpired, then you did exactly what you need to do. So therefore, whoever you play your podcast, your recording, your audio for your confidence building, make sure it's someone you trust, one. And then two, just give it to them and say, hi, I want you to listen to this and let me know what you think. And don't say anything. Don't tell them what it's about. Don't tell them there's a reason why I did this. Don't give any why. So let your why speak for itself in the audio. Let it speak for itself. Another thing that Meesa and we learned when it came to confidence building was practice reading out loud. And I know this sounds kind of basic. It really does. You're kind of like, reading out loud. Like, what is that really going to help? When Meesa and I were in, we were in this kind of collective of radio bigwigs who were in radio for, I want to say, like 20, 30, 40 years. And we were new to the club. And then the leader of the club said, we have some new some new radio broadcasters, be able to get them any knowledge you can. And I remember there was this skinny man. He ran all the way across the room. I remember it was yesterday. He ran all the way across the room, and I saw him, and I'm thinking, okay, he's about to give us some really, really great knowledge. And he said, read every day. And I was like, he clearly doesn't know what we do, because we don't get on the air and read. But when you think about it, it made a lot of sense. What he said was the fact that you're going to be a majority of your job of why you're on your podcast or on your show is reading. Yeah. Perfect example. When we do #too many hashtags, our trending topic segment, we have to read a headline. We have to read the story, read the news. And you don't want to go on the air or press record and then you're fumbling over your words, you're stuttering, you have to start all the way over, things like that. You need to practice reading out loud. Read out loud everything. Read out loud your text messages. If you're a reader at heart, read out loud. Anything, any of those things are very helpful, because when it comes to when you have to read something on the air and you're given something, I know that's what happens in the radio world, but even in podcasting, say you might need to read something really, really quick off of Google that you found, you can read it with ease and you're confident in it. You can know your voice inflections, your articulation, your enunciation, how fast you talk, if you need to slow down, if you need to speed up, anything like that. So therefore, practice reading out loud any and everything. Yes. And the final thing I would say is, what really helps with confidence building is finding your safety words. Now, safety words are words that can come when you're nervous or you don't know what to say. And I don't know if there's sometimes that you notice people saying words like when they're just talking in general. I think it would be very distracting if I got on the air and said, hey, what's up, everybody? We are so excited for you to hear Eminem Live Radio. We have so many Different things going on for this show, and I think really I already said like 8 times. You know what I'm saying? Like that's but I think the reason why sometimes people do that is because they're nervous, or you're trying to figure out what you say. And therefore, so when you're out in your everyday, like, talking to your friends, your family, or with your just amongst others, and or even when you're recording yourself on your podcast or recording yourself listening back to your audio, the very first tip that we gave, see if there are any words that you find yourself saying a lot, and then figure out and think, okay, why am I saying this word so much? Usually, I remember there was a time when Meesa and I, when we first did Eminem Live Radio, when we were on AM, our word was, "That's so amazing." Oh, that is so amazing. That we usually said that when we didn't know what else to say.
And 9 times out of 10, it was not amazing.
It wasn't that amazing, but it was only a filler word, as our mentor would tell us, or a safety word, because we felt safe using that word when we didn't know what else to say, or when we were nervous. So therefore, you want to be able to dissect what those safety words are, cut it from your vocabulary, and therefore just take your time and think about what you say. A majority of the time, our mentor of ours used to always say, do not be afraid of pauses, because that just shows that you're thinking about what you're saying. And honestly, most of the times your listeners will lean in because they're like, okay, if you take a pause to talk or say something, that just means that you're about to say something of value. We would rather you take a pause and say something of value than you to just fill words and throw words all over the place and therefore not know what to say, like saying words like or in our case, that's so amazing, or whatever it is. So finding your safety words will be able to make you feel more confident in how you carry yourself on the air.
Right. So altogether, the confidence building tips that we want for you to go ahead and start working on today. We want for you to start working on these today.
ASAP.
Record yourself and listen back to your audio, then play it back for someone whose opinion that you do trust. Practice reading out loud, at least for 10 minutes. Some foreign piece of, writing or literature, whether it's a random book that you found, or if you're reading the nutrition facts on the side of your cereal box. Try to figure out something or find some piece of writing or literature and read out loud so that you can work on the inflections, articulation, and enunciation, like Meah said, and find out your safety words. Even have somebody, keep you accountable. If your word is like, tell them to, cut you off every time you're saying way too many times, because this will help you build your confidence for your podcast. Okay. Yes. And now we have reached the end of the orientation for class 1 of the second semester of the Podcasting Academy. Now, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to drop something in the chat. Was there anything that you wanted for us to elaborate on a little bit? Was there anything that you had questions about? Go ahead and feel free to ask any and all questions, because we want to make sure that we are equipping you the best way we can to go into the podcasting field, super guns blazing and ready to, just start living your life as a true podcaster. What do you guys think? Feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself. No questions? Man, maybe we did pretty good this round.
Maybe we did produce pretty good this round. Or if you don't want to unmute yourself, feel free to use the chat and type your question if you want. We can also check the chat as well if you don't want to unmute yourself. But listen, if you have any questions about anything, the 3 C's, content creation, confidence building, creative elements, time management, even the creating the rundown or anything like that, if there's anything that we covered into this orientation that you have a question about, please feel free to ask us.
Or also, if you happen to think of a question later on, even after the class, that email that we've been conversing back and forth with you all, feel free to go ahead and just send us a question. We are very close to our email. We'll go ahead and respond as quick as we can, or at least the moment that we do see it.
Yes.
But we do have homework.
We do have homework for you guys. This is an academy. This is school. So yes, we have homework for you. But as you all know, of course we all know, homework is not to be a burden to you. It's only to help make you better and understand the content that you just learned. And even also be able to write down things for your podcast for the future.
Yes. So we have a podcasting plan that we will be sending via email to each and every one of you after this class. Okay. So what we are asking for you to do is to complete your podcasting plan, answer all the questions, and please make sure you have it submitted by next Thursday. And that's the 12th,
11th,
March 11th, March 11th. Okay. So it's very, very easy. It's not like there's a right or wrong answer. This is literally us trying to help you create your ideas, organize your thoughts, create that time management component that we talked about at the beginning of the class, and just write down absolutely everything, because you're going to need that to refer back to when you're creating different episodes for your podcast.
Yeah. So then, like we said before, you can be able to submit that podcasting plan. We're going to send it via email to you guys. You can be be able to send it right back to that same email that it was sent to you.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I will also chime in and say that we do have the second class of the Podcasting Academy starting tomorrow. What time tomorrow?
11 a.m. to 12 p.m.
And that's Eastern time, okay?
Yes.
I'm not sure if everyone's on the same, side of the country, but that's Eastern time. We will be having the second class, of course, going up tomorrow morning. So make sure you are here, you're on time, you're prompt, because we have so much more information so that we're able to properly equip you to being that podcaster that you always dreamt of being. Okay. And also, along with that podcasting plan, make sure you are applying the confidence building tips we mentioned this week. Okay. So record yourself at some point this week. At some point, even if it is a voicemail, even if you have that one person that you are going to be, relying on them to give their feedback and whatnot, tell them, hey, listen, don't answer the phone. I'm going to call you. And just leave
or
it for what it is.
Or even if you have voice memo on your phone, that's even another great way to be able to record yourself as well.
Absolutely. And then send it to them and let them give you their honest to God feedback. If you happen to have some type of idea of a podcasting segment that you're just trying to test out.
Or if you want to practice interviewing, that's even a great one as well.
Awesome.
If you want to do that.
Yeah, give that a shot. Send it to them and get their responses, okay? Practice reading something out loud for 10 minutes, okay? It would literally blow your mind.
It will blow your mind how much of a difference it will make.
Yes.
I still, to this day, I read a lot. I read it probably about every day. And I always read out loud. And even to this day, when I read things on the show, I feel very confident reading because I do it on a regular basis.
That's good.
So I definitely would recommend reading out loud. It helps so much.
And get those safety words together, okay?
Yes.
Write them down, okay? Make sure you put those safety words on notice. If it is like, if it is if it is if it is well, if it is, that's great. If it is something that's just a phrase, figure out what that is so that you can try to derive away from that, so that when it is actually time for you to put your podcasting episodes out there, you're not so hugged and married to that safety word. You've got to get rid of that safety word.
Got to get rid of those safety words. All right, well, that concludes course 1, the orientation. Listen, we're so happy that all of you guys were able to be here for the first class. Listen, this is just the beginning. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into a lot of different things when it comes to your podcast. But listen, throughout the entire course of the Podcasting Academy, the other courses that we have coming up, you're going to learn about podcast distribution. That means learning about how to get your podcast on platforms like iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, platforms like that. You're also going to learn all the details of podcasting equipment. We're actually going to bring in our engineer, Kimo Jones, who's actually in here right now. He will be actually teaching you guys a course on podcasting equipment, learning about software, how to record your own podcast. Honestly, it sounds intimidating, but it's actually very, very simple, and it's a very key course that you're not going to want to miss. We're going to talk about branding, networking, so many different things in the Podcasting Academy. And we really encourage you guys that you guys do not miss a single class. We're really excited about you guys being able to soak in all of this knowledge.
Yes, so we're going to stay on a little bit. If you guys happen to have any questions that you do want to ask, feel free to unmute yourself. Feel free to use the chat. Feel free to email us even later on. But make sure you start the confidence building tips this week, and make sure you go ahead and get your hands on that podcasting plan that we are going to send you later on tonight. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 11?
At 11 a.m. If you have no questions, feel free to go ahead and log off, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning at 11. You guys have a great night. Thank you guys for attending the course 1.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Logi, okay. This ain't nothing to me.